I'm still getting used to the concept of filming myself and bringing you along my journey with creativity, music, and just life in general. So perhaps I'll be a little bit nervous for a while, but I'm sure I'll get into the flow of it. I have been spending time figuring out what it looks like to walk in this calling to be a creator. At least for me, what I believe God has put in my life is to make music, to share it with people, and to find ways to connect with the person that's listening to my music or through what I'm sharing. So, in this last while, I've been taking time to make new music. I've been brushing up my recording skills. I've been also taking time to figure out how I want to share my thoughts and my art because it's very easy to just get into best practices, strategies, promo, marketing, which is all good. But I think for me, I realized that I've been going with it, not really making it my own thing. Like if I'm going to share a piece of art or a message, I would like for it to connect with the other person instead of it just being, hey, here's my new music, listen to me, this is what I have to say, and then put myself all over in social media. So that's what I've been doing this time over the last 2, 3 months or so. I've also wrapped up a new composition that's coming out next Friday on the 7th of November. I'm really excited about this one because it signifies a bit of a change in my sound, or at least the start of a new direction for me with my music. I'm still composing primarily on the piano, and this piece plays around with textures. So for me, with playing the piano, I have a lot of repeats. Um, I'm doing this because that's literally what I'm doing throughout the piece, and it's um, it's a bit, I would say, cinematic. It depends on how you feel about it when you listen to it. And this time around, it's a bit more experimental than some of my other pieces. So I'm quite excited for you to listen to it. I made it when I was living in Australia. This was in 2020 during the lockdowns. Like everyone else, going through a tough time, learning how to live in that new normal we used to talk about. But that also meant that I had a lot of time at home. And so I spent my time playing the piano and listening to a lot of music. So a few of the artists that I was checking out at that time was Hania Rani, this Polish pianist and composer, which I have come to really enjoy and take a lot of influences from. I got a chance to see her live when I was in Manchester in 2023. Yeah, that was a dream come true bucket list. And then the next artist is this band, a three-piece band called Mammal Hands, and they play jazz, minimalism, instrumental-based music. But it was so interesting to see how they could combine different genres together and styles in a way that I have never heard it played before. And then another artist, an Armenian pianist, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Tigran Hamashan. He's someone I've already known about, but this time around I was listening to his new album and I just thought, wow, this album is so cool. There's elements of rock, there's jazz, there's Armenian folk sounds. And that was that period of time in lockdown was when I started to explore different ways of playing my music, not just sticking to what I had started with, which was like modern classical and neoclassical. This was me exploring time signatures in a new way. This was me uh, taking all these elements and putting it together into something new. So anyway, cut the story short. This piece, it's called Oculus. I made it in a time of great creative burst. It shows me playing around with different elements of music without too much restraint. It's a bit emotive. I would say that I poured a lot of my heart and soul into it, even though it was experimental. So not too much, not so much me trying to share a message with the listener, but me just having fun. But it also has a sound, a quality to it where it's a little bit, I won't say emotional, but I said cinematic earlier. The word that comes to me is emotive, so you can make it whatever you want it to be when it comes out. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with my music. New single coming out next week. I'm hoping to release and record and release some newer pieces of music in the coming months. So with that, I've been thinking about this notion of making art that does not fit into a category. Not so much intentionally making it so that it doesn't fit into a genre or style, but giving yourself or giving yourself the space to create based on what you enjoy, what inspires you, putting it together. And if it fits into a style, if it fits into a genre or a category, great. It's easier to understand, and we are humans. We labels are helpful for us with clarification. But if it does not, then it becomes its own thing, and that's okay. And that's something I've had to wrap my head around. So when I first started out making music, I just had tunes in my head, and all I would do is play it out and then add chords in, flesh it out until it became a piece. And most of the time, my pieces fit into the category of modern classical, instrumental, new age. I discovered that genre later on. And so I kind of just stuck with that. And then as time went along, like I mentioned, that my lockdown period of creativity, that's when I started to play around with different styles based on what I was listening to. And I started to see that my music deviated a little bit away from what I started with. And I was so excited about that, but I was also scared. I was trying to figure out what in the world am I making? It's music that I like, and but I also don't understand if it's jazz, if it's classical. Where does this fit in? And it doesn't make it easy when it comes to marketing myself. So if I tell people, when someone asks me about my music, oh, what kind of music do you make? At that point in time when I first started, I could say modern classical and then briefly explain that. But now I kind of struggle to put together the different genres that this my music is starting to sound like. So that kind of made me feel a little bit uncertain about what I'm doing, what I was doing. So right now, I see that making music or making art that does not fit into a category is fine. There are links. I think there's always going to be something that links the art to a specific style or an influence, but it's fine if the art stands out on its own. It's liberating as well. It does not need to fit into a genre and style. And part about that fear that I talked about was when marketing, and then the other thing was, I guess, the idea of fitting in. When I looked at other contemporary artists that I was aware of, especially on Instagram, I follow a lot of talented, wonderful pianist composers, and I would see that most of them were making, you could say, similar sounding music. So good music, but similar. But mine seemed to be a little bit away from that. And I wanted to belong with the group, but I found myself coming away from that just not by sheer force, but it just so happened to be that way. And what I realize now for me with making music and art, if my music resonates with the listener, if it sparks curiosity in them, creates an emotional response, if it helps or if it just makes the listener think of something bigger than themselves, that's always for me. That's what makes me think of good art, when it's bigger than life that I'm living in. So if that's what happens to a listener when they hear my music, whether it's jazz, rock, uh, any other genre, I think it doesn't matter anymore to me. I just want my music in whatever shape, way, or form to find a home with the listener, and for them to make it their own thing, how they perceive it to be. Like I said, there will be links. You can draw comparisons with different genres, styles, and artists. But even if it stands on its own, it's okay. Maybe it'll become its own thing, its own different genre. That's how it is, right? So that's where I'm at with my music. Just experimenting, playing along with different sounds, not limiting myself to creating within my genre. And if I happen to do that, sometimes I have moments where I end up creating a piece that sounds a lot more classical than I normally would. That's okay. I think it's dependent on what I want to make, how it happens. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about this new journey of making music that I feel represents me as an artist and where I'm going with it. And one thing I want to leave in this video is to encourage any creators and artists out there, and just anyone, to create what you love, create what you like, not what you think it should be, not what would be well received or would fit in. You don't know the impact it might make in someone else's life or even in your own. Just create the art, put it out there, let it take its own form. And I just want to encourage people to make art regardless if it fits into a category. Let it make its home, let it find a home in the person that interacts with it. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for listening and watching.